Chuckle. Skip 3 months, 2 weeks, 10 days, 1352, Wallachia. Vlad and Lisa heard Hilda scream in immense pain as she was surrounded by doctors, partially squatting as she was giving birth to her daughter. Should we call Naruto and Tamamo to help? Lisa asked in worry, since Hilda had been in labor for over 12 hours now. No, we shouldn't bother them. Remember, Tamamo is going to give birth any day now. Vlad reminded Lisa before both of them winced, covering their ears as a piercing shriek rippled through the castle infirmary, followed by a doctor being bitten by Hilda when they tried to help her. Hilda felt so much pain. It felt like her crotch was on fire from having to dilate 10 centimeters, and then having to push her child through said opening with something that was followed by pressure on her organs, a tearing sensation going through her lower half with every push. Okay, Lady Hilda, a few more pushes. A male nurse said as he and a co-worker held her hands, which were breaking their own, but they used magic to heal their hands as she crushed them. Hilda squinted as she pushed, veins appearing on her neck and forehead, coated in sweat as she wanted to lay down, legs hurting, and she was thirsty. Hilda cried out as all pain suddenly numbed as one doctor reached between her legs as the head of her daughter appeared. One more. The doctor encouraged, carefully preparing to take hold of the newborn. Hilda, with her remaining strength, pushed as hard as she could, and with that, the rest of the head and shoulders were revealed, and her daughter gave her first shrill scream of life as the doctor pulled her out, the umbilical cord following before it was snipped. Extremely exhausted, Hilda was helped to the bed, gasping for oxygen as the nurses helped cool her down by wiping her forehead of said sweat and holding a cup water with a straw for her to drink. Meanwhile, the doctor who held the screaming and bloodied baby carefully cleaned her up, wiping the placenta fluid off her before drying her off and wrapping her in a soft blanket. Lady Hilda, the doctor said proudly as she turned to her master. Here is your daughter. Hilda weakly reached out, smiling with tears of joy flowing from her eyes as she accepted her child. The doctor went to the door to the infirmary and saw Vlad and Lisa. The baby has been born, she announced proudly, nearly being barreled over by the grandparents. Vlad and Lisa walked next to Hilda, who was cradling her daughter. She's beautiful, Lisa said with tears, a happy smile on her face. Such pink hair, Vlad stated dumbly as he saw the chubby baby with the small amount of light crimson hair on their head cuddle with Hilda. Lisa pinched Vlad's side. Don't be rude, Lisa stated darkly, not allowing anyone to insult her granddaughter. Vlad shrank under his wife's gaze. Yes, dear, he replied. Lisa nodded. That's right, she thought before she turned back to Hilda. You have any names picked out for her, Hilda? Hilda nodded tiredly. Yes, I chose the name the moment Naruto told me I would have a daughter, she stated happily. She is Akasha Lisa Teeps. That's a wonderful name, Vlad said as he reached out a clawed finger and gently caressed Akasha's chubby cheek. His breath hitched as they all watched Akasha grab his finger with her stubby hand. Vlad's eyes watered as he felt her grip his finger, quite tightly for a baby. I love you, Akasha, he mumbled, making Lisa as she hugged her husband. Akasha smiled as she was surrounded by love. Meanwhile, Tamamo was sleeping as Naruto signed off some paperwork, since Tamamo had been on leave since her 6th month of pregnancy. I can't wait for our child to be born, Naruto thought as he stretched his arms over his head. Because after that we can focus on those letters the myth faction sent us. Anyway, time for bed. As Naruto stood up, he heard a squeaking sound near the door that led outside. Upon opening it, a bat flew in, holding a letter in its small feet. It let the letter go, which Naruto caught before it flew off. A letter? Naruto thought as he opened it up, smiling as he saw a small portrait of the Teeps family, and a small note. Say hello to your niece, Akasha Lisa Teeps. Hilda. Naruto awed at Akasha's appearance. Hopefully, our baby is this cute. Naruto thought happily as he put the letter to the side before he got into bed, holding his wife and child closely. 2.5 days later. Tamamo let out pain screams as the doctor used their chakra to scan the baby while Naruto held Tamamo's hand as she lay on the bed, covered in sweat after 3 hours of labor pains as she was dilating. This isn't good. The doctor said as she thought as fast as possible, calmly despite her panic. What's wrong? Naruto asked as he winced, his hand breaking again from Tamamo's grip. The baby, she will die. The doctor stated. Naruto and Tamamo's hearts dropped. She won't live. Tamamo asked, heartbreaking as she cried as the baby tried to be born, but couldn't since she was only 4 centimeters dilated. Well, that is the wrong wording. The doctor replied, making Naruto want to smack her. But she could die. Her umbilical cord is wrapped tightly around her neck, meaning if she is born naturally, she will be choked. We have to do a cesarean delivery. What does that mean? Naruto asked as Tamamo cried in pain. We will cut her open right above the womb, and safely cut the umbilical cord before removing your child through the same cut instead of allowing a natural birth. The doctor explained, pushing her glasses up. But it's risky, the cesarean delivery is still quite new, so the possibility of negative repercussions are high. Do it. Tamamo gasped as she grimaced in agony. I don't want to lose this child. I can't, not, like the other one. Naruto knew exactly what she meant. Miko's greatest act of cruelty to Tamamo was forcing their previous physician, Dr. Izo, to abort their first child, thus the scarring that is currently on Tamamo's stomach, right where the C-section would take place. All right, Empress. The doctor replied as she looked at her leader before looking at Naruto. Sadly, you have to leave, we can't have you in our way, Naruto. Naruto wanted to refuse, not desiring to leave his wife at this time, but nodded in understanding. Naru. Tamamo gasped as the doctor left to make preparations, smiling through the pain. I'm going to, we will be fine. Naruto gripped her hand, kissing her sweaty forehead. I won't be that far away. Naruto stated as he squeezed her hand one last time before the doctors shooed him out of the room. Outside, Naruto saw Damamaru and Toshimi waiting for him and Tamamo, since they were direct servants under Tamamo and Naruto, and they lived with them, so it would have been strange without the two Kappa being there. She doing all right? Toshimi asked worriedly since Naruto walked out. Did something happen? They have to perform an alternate birthing method. Naruto explained as he sat down. Apparently the umbilical cord could harm our child, so this is the safer option, and they didn't want me in there. Toshimi was extremely worried and Damamaru held her close. We are here for you, Naruto. Damamaru stated bravely. Thank you, both of you. Naruto replied as he fist-bumped Damamaru. The trio sat in an awkward silence for 37 minutes as Tamamo's cries had died out. It was replaced shortly after it went silent by the cries of a baby, making Naruto shoot up, looking at the door. Every second was its own eternity as Naruto could hear his heart in his ears as anxiety bubbled in his gut. His heart got light as the doctor opened the door, a proud and happy smile on her face. "Congrats, Naruto," she said as she made room for him to rush and so see his family with Damamaru and Toshimi behind him. Tamamo lay on the bed, tired and sweaty as her tails weakly swayed happily as she held a bundle of blankets in her arms. Looking up, Tamamo's tired eyes became happier as she smiled more. "Look, dear, it's your papa," Tamamo whispered to the napping babe, who had light amount of light blonde hair on her head, with tiny fox ears on her head. Naruto tearfully smiled as he saw his daughter. "What is her name?" Naruto asked as he carefully took her from Tamamo. "Yasaka," Tamamo replied with a tired smile as she closed her eyes, nearly falling asleep. "Yasaka. Miko. Uzumaki." Tamamo passed out, leaving Naruto with his daughter. Damamaru and Toshimi walked in behind him, which he could tell as he smiled as he cradled his daughter with one arm, caressing her cheek with his finger, making her smile, giving him a toothless smile. "She is beautiful," Toshimi gushed. "Yes," Naruto sniffled as he wiped his eyes. "Yasaka is a cute baby." That night, Tamamo slept in her hospital bed, Naruto having gone home to sleep, and Yasaka was sleeping peacefully in a medical crib in the nursery, which was being watched over by a few night workers. However, despite their nocturnal habits, they passed out simultaneously, sleeping like children as Ophis entered the nursery. The infinite dragon targeted Yasaka, floating over the crib since she was too short to look over the railing. Ophis made no visual or audible signs of happiness, but internally she was gushing over her granddaughter. "She is so adorable," Ophis thought as she reached out, floating down, her long inky black hair hitting the crib before she carefully picked up Yasaka, who was drooling in her sleep. "She has a Shura's nose." She carefully rocked Yasaka in her arms, which she had seen mothers do with their children as of late. Ophis smiled, breaking her uncaring norm again, and kissed her grandchild's forehead, making Yasaka giggle in her sleep as she hugged Ophis's face. "I love you," Ophis thought as she pulled Yasaka off of her face. "You have done nothing to earn this love, but I love you. And I will kill anyone who dare try to hurt you." Ophis paused in her thoughts as she heard someone approaching the nursery. She placed Yasaka back into her crib, and once more, kissed her grandchild's cheek before she vanished as the door started to open, the workers waking up to be scolded by their boss. 2 weeks later, Naruto, Tamamo, and Hilda watched as Akasha and Yasaka lay next to each other on a blanket on the floor. Tamamo, having been on leave for the foreseeable 6 weeks to heal from her C-section, gently sat down on the floor. "She is beautiful," Tamamo stated as Akasha looked at her, her big mint green eyes staring up at her. Hilda giggled as she looked at Yasaka, whose eyes were a golden yellow, looking around as her tiny ears twitched at every sound with a single tiny tail swaying under her. "Yasaka is pretty cute too," Hilda stated as she poked Yasaka's belly. "So, how is Vlad doing?" Naruto asked as he sat next to Tamamo. Hilda sighed in slight sadness. "He took back the throne, but he stated, and I quote, 'I will be king until my granddaughter is ready to take the throne.'" Hilda replied, doing her best impression of Vlad's slightly gravelly voice. "That sounds like him," Tamamo replied as she giggled, picking Akasha up to hold her. "Seems like she likes you," Auntie Tama Hilda stated with a smug smirk, while Yasaka grabbed Hilda's hand and nibbled it. "Seems she likes how you taste," Auntie Hilda Tamamo retorted with the same smug tone. Naruto stayed silent, not going to get murdered over this. "Well, Adrian and I did consider ourselves to be brothers,"
so Akasha being my niece sounds about right.
Naruto thought with a smile as he took Akasha and Yasaka into his arms, careful to hold them while their mothers butted heads. Naruto winced in pain as he pulled his hand back, grabbing it as an elder yokai stood next to him with a bamboo stick. "You did it wrong, try again," he stated as he watched Naruto with a critical eye. "Yes, sir," Naruto replied politely as he picked up the brush he dropped again. Kurama sighed in irritation as Naruto started to draw a seal. Naruto had been taking lessons in seals for 2 weeks now, and Kurama was getting tired of the mundanity of it all. "You know you could skip all of this if you used the Rinne Sharingan, right?" Kurama stated. "Yeah, you are right," Naruto mentally replied as he continued, only to mess up as his hand was struck once more. "But I would get a bad taste in my mouth if I cheated like that. I want to earn this," Kurama grumbled as he lay down. The other tailed beasts were off in their own private levels of the tailed beast psyche. Because spending time with each other for all eternity was its own brand of hell when you lived with your siblings. Naruto focused on his lessons, and after another hour, his teacher let him go. "Well, at least I am getting better," he thought in a positive way as he massaged his hand. "I hope Yasaka and Tamamo are doing fine." He smiled fondly as he thought of his wife and daughter. The two greatest treasures in his life, always making him smile. Once home after 10 minutes of walking, Naruto was greeted by one of the servants. "Lord Naruto, we have finally translated the letters from the 4 pantheons," they said as they handed them to Naruto. "Thank you, I'll go talk to the Empress right away," Naruto replied politely before he looked for his wife. Naruto greeted Damamaru and Tashimi in the kitchen as he passed them. "Where is Tamamo?" he asked the 2 Kappa. "She is in Yasaka's room, breastfeeding," Tashimi replied as she and Damamaru prepared dinner. Naruto instantly straightened up as he left to find his wife. Naruto thought as he thought of Tamamo breastfeeding. Her breasts have gotten bigger since she got pregnant. Pervert. Matatabi purred, not in disgust, but a playful tone that showed she wasn't serious. Naruto smirked as he knocked on the door leading to Yasaka's room. "Come in," Tamamo called from within. Naruto opened the door and saw Tamamo sitting in a chair nursing Yasaka, kimono open to allow her right breast to be uncovered for Yasaka. In the 4 weeks since her birth, Yasaka's light blonde hair had come in and was in tiny twin pigtails with small string. She happily sucked the milk from her mother's exposed breast, her tiny tail wagging. "Hey sweetie, how were your seal lessons? Are those the letters from the pantheons?" Tamamo asked as she looked up at Naruto, who was staring enviously at his daughter, which didn't escape his wife's eye. "What, you jealous of your daughter, Naru?" Naruto blushed and stepped back, chuckling nervously as he put the letters on the nearby table. Tamamo sighed as she shifted a bit to pull her left sleeve down to expose her left breast. "Come here, you baby," Tamamo giggled. Naruto seemingly teleported to his wife's side and gently cupped her milk-filled breast, making Tamamo quiet a moan. Tamamo gasped slightly as Naruto licked her nipple before he sucked it into his mouth. Breast milk splashed against Naruto's tongue, making him hum at the taste. As this was happening, Yasaka glanced over at her father and scowled. Her tail flipped up and thwacked him, getting Naruto's attention. Tamamo giggled. "Seems she doesn't like sharing," Tamamo stated as Yasaka cutely glared at Naruto. Well, she has one mouth and you have two tits, so she can learn to share,
Naruto stated with a cheeky tone and smile. Tamamo laughed and pulled him back into her breast with her tail, while she looked at Yasaka.
He is right, you need to share, sweetie,
Tamamo stated. Yasaka only pouted. Tamamo giggled before slapping her hand to over her mouth, ears drooping as she violently coughed into her hand. Tamamo,
Naruto said in concern as he summoned a clone to take Yasaka away, while he helped Tamamo get some water.
I'm fine, Tamamo stated after she sipped some water. Just swallowed some air wrong.
Naruto didn't believe her, but let it go as his clone did its best to ease it, tearing up Yasaka as he burped her.
Anyway, Naruto, Tamamo said as she sat up, covering her breasts, looking at the table with the letters.
Which of the four pantheons are you picking to go to first? Naruto picked them up and looked at them.
I think I'll go to. Naruto started to say. 3 days later, afternoon, Greece. Naruto stood in the Aegean Sea, Mount Olympus off in the distance.
Well, this is going to be fun,
Naruto thought as he looked up at the large mountain, after running across the ocean and land by foot.
Currently, he was walking across the water, avoiding much of the people because he was on a mission as an ambassador of Kyoto.
Is that the island of Cyclopses?
Naruto thought as he neared an island, feeling several inhuman life signatures on the island. And there are humans there too.
Let's go check it out,
Isaba stated, interested in getting to see the Cyclopses.
Fine,
Naruto thought as he took off towards the island.
On the island, 20 minutes later. As you can see, my name is nobody, Odysseus told a near-drunk Cyclops called Polyphemus.
Well, nobody, you are being very generous, despite the fact I am going to eat you,
Polyphemus stated drunkenly as he felt drowsy.
Yeah, that's it,
Odysseus thought as he watched the Cyclops fall asleep.
Working quickly, Odysseus and his surviving men stuck a large sharpened stake into the burning fire, which lit the cave they resided in.
Come on, Odysseus thought as he urgently wanted the stake to light.
Suddenly, the boulder keeping Odysseus and his men inside Polyphemus's cave was pulled away.
Oh, what is going on? Naruto said as he walked in, seeing the Greek warriors stare at him in confusion.
Hello.
Without hesitating, Odysseus and his men grabbed Polyphemus's sheep and Naruto, running to their boat with him and quickly set sail.
Oh, thank the gods, they must have sent you to find us. Odysseus's men thanked Naruto as the wind picked up, their boats catching the wind.
What are they saying? Naruto thought as he heard them speaking fluent Greek. Try using your Rinne Sharingan, you could learn their language, Chome chimed in.
Naruto thought as he used a transformation to hide his third eye and open set eye. I, Odysseus, captain of this ship, welcome you onto our vessel,
Odysseus greeted.
I thank you for saving our lives from the Cyclops.
Naruto bowed.
Greetings, Odysseus, I am a foreigner from the Far East,
Naruto said in partially broken Greek, but it was understandable. My name is Naruto. Odysseus extended his arm.
Naruto took his arm, and they shook arms.
Please, travel with us, to our home of Ithaca, Odysseus stated as he and Naruto walked amongst the Greek men rowing the boat.
I will gladly accept, Odysseus,
Naruto said with a bright smile. Meanwhile, Tamamo sat with the doctor writing something down. It's just a simple cold, Empress.
the doctor said in confidence. You should heal up in a few days.
Tamamo nodded.
I am worried, she thought as she sat up to leave. I have been sick before, but this is taking too long. She had been feeling feverish and could feel her heart increase at random moments. Here, this medication will help ease the symptoms, the doctor said as she gave Tamamo some ground herbs. Please, take it easy, Empress, we all need you, especially your daughter and your husband.
Tamamo thought of Naruto and Yasaka, ears drooping and hands clenching.
Yes, thank you, doctor,
Tamamo thought as she bowed before leaving.
She walked through Kyoto, heading for the compound she called her home. I will overcome this,
Tamamo thought courageously as she approached her home.
I will not give up until I am better. 4 days later, Ithaca, Greece.
Naruto laughed as he drank with Odysseus.
Having docked the day before, Naruto had spent hours with Odysseus, learning the ways of Greek culture and in turn, taught Odysseus about Japan and his culture. Of course, he had let Odysseus reunite with his young son and wife. But now, it was a massive banquet for Naruto saving them was being held.
Thank you again for this, Odysseus, but tomorrow, I must be going, Naruto stated as he gulped down the watered-down wine.
Why is that?
Odysseus asked, slightly drunk as he swayed in his seat.
I got to meet the gods tomorrow, Naruto stated as he started to feel the effects of the alcohol.
Fine,
Odysseus stated as he didn't want Naruto to leave, having learned a lot of the lands outside of Greece from him. They partied for several more hours before it was dark with the stars as the only lights. Naruto, having recovered from his hangover quickly, packed his bag with some food before he left Odysseus's house, leaving a note behind for the Greek to find in the morning. I had fun, Naruto thought as he started to jog away from the house. But now, it's time for business. As the night rolled on, Naruto made it to the shore at a nearby cliff, and with no fear, jumped off it towards the water as he saw the coast of Greece several miles away. He landed into the water safely, thanks to his chakra cloak appearing last second to break his fall and charge his speed as he took off across the water, powering down to not be seen or sensed as easily. Once back on dry land, Naruto asked for directions towards Mount Olympus by a humble family, giving them some money for their trouble before walking off again. As our merry protagonist walked across the untamed wilds of Greece, Polyphemus was waking up and realizing his sheep had been stolen.
Nobody, you son of a bitch! Polyphemus shouted as he barged out of his cave, and looked all over the island for his sheep and Odysseus, not knowing the man had arrived home safely. Polyphemus ran to the coast and took a deep breath.
Dad!
He shouted.
The waves rippled and took the shape of a face.
Poseidon, god of the seas, appeared, while his water avatar took shape before his son.
Yes, my dear Polyphemus.
Poseidon spoke.
What is it? Dad, a few days ago, a human named Nobody came here, and he got me drunk, and then while I was sleeping, somehow got out of my blocked-off cave and took my sheep.
Polyphemus stated in quick succession. Please, help me get vengeance on them. Poseidon was instantly on board with fucking with humans.
Don't worry, my son, Poseidon stated as he reached out to his massive son's hand. I will take care of this, rest assured.
Polyphemus smiled in relief.
Thank you, Dad. He thanked as his father's water avatar deformed and returned to being regular water.
Mt. Olympus. Poseidon, the real one, walked to the fates.
He was a tall man, muscled to pure athletic peak, and had a tan complexion. He wore a teal-blue armor with a tunic draped over one shoulder and decorated with various sea life. He had dark hair with a full beard. In his hand was his trusty trident. He approached the loom chamber of the Fates, which was heavily guarded, but as an Olympian god, he was able to safely pass through with no interruptions. He arrived before the Fates. Clotho, Lachesis, and Atropos sat with their looms with the strings of fate being woven as Poseidon neared them. They wore revealing cloaks, not hiding their figures from anyone, their hair tied up to not get caught in the thread. "Fates, it is I, Poseidon," the sea god stated as he entered their loom chamber. "We knew, for it was as we desired," Clotho stated as she worked on the present, as she represented the present. "And we know what you seek, god of the sea," Lachesis stated as she worked on the future, as she represented the future. "And so, it shall be," Atropos finished as she refined the past, as she represented the past. "You want to know of the human, Odysseus, and how he escaped your son?" Lachesis asked as she wove the future. "It was not by our hands he escaped, but by the hands of someone who was not tied to our looms." "Then who was it?" Poseidon asked respectfully, staying on the good side of the Fates. The three Fates laughed as they paused in their work. "It is a man you already know of," Clotho answered, carefully moving her fingers over the delicate thread. "For he is a being of tremendous power, and he is on his way to Mount Olympus as we speak." Poseidon's eyes nearly bugged from his eyes as he heard this. "I must return and inform my brothers and sisters of this," Poseidon thought as he made haste, hearing the sisters of fate cackling behind him as he returned to Olympus. "Brother!" Poseidon shouted at Zeus as he arrived in the great hall. "We have an invader heading our way." Several hours later. "Wow, it's fucking huge," Naruto stated in awe at the base of Mount Olympus, staring up towards the sky. "It was one hell of a walk, but damn was it worth it." "Yeah, totally worth the fucking time it took to get us here, when we could have teleported," Kurama stated angrily. "Seriously, you could have teleported there, got your stupid talk done, and then returned back to Tamamo and Yasaka." "Oh, is that worry I hear in your voice?" Naruto thought smugly. Kurama gasped before growling. "Are you accusing me of something, Naruto?" Kurama yelled in embarrassment. Naruto smirked as he started to walk up the mountain. "Well, he is right, it was a lot of time," Naruto thought, realizing an entire week had passed since he left Kyoto to get to Olympus. Only for him to be surrounded by Olympian soldiers, armed with spears and shields, circling around him as Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades arrived before him. Zeus was a man who looked like he was in his mid-40s, wearing lightning-themed arm guards, a single pauldron on his left shoulder, wore a similar tunic to Poseidon, only with gold and lightning bolts on it. He had a bushy white beard and white hair. He had a smooth muscled body like Poseidon. Hades, meanwhile, had very pale purple skin and had gray teal hair. He wore black armor and tunic like Poseidon, but was decorated in skulls, the single pauldron with 3 dog heads, in homage to his pet dog Cerberus. At his sides were 2 claw-like hooks with chains attached. "Wow, and I thought I would have to scale the mountain to meet you," Naruto replied nervously as he held his hands up. "What the hell is he?" Hades asked Poseidon. All three could sense great power from Naruto, but they could not see what Naruto was, be it human or god. "Who are you, intruder?" Zeus asked, having heard his brother's question, before he drew a large double-edged sword that had golden people holding the blade with an image of his face acting as the guard. Depending on the answer, we might have to kill you to protect our homes.
Naruto swallowed the heavy lump in his throat.
Shit, they think I am attacking them, he thought with a cold sweat.
I am Naruto Uzumaki,
Naruto stated nervously. I am the ambassador from Kyoto. You sent a letter to us roughly a year ago after the faction war ended.
Zeus blinked.
Oh
wait, shit, there has been a misunderstanding,
Zeus stated as he realized who Naruto was. Okay, men, lower your weapons, he means no harm. The soldiers lowered their spears before vanishing, since they were artificial creations thanks to Hephaestus. Brother, why do you have our men? Hades started to ask before Zeus spun on his heel and punched Poseidon in the jaw hard enough to make his feet leave the ground, and he landed head first onto the ground. Why did you?
Poseidon, you idiot!
Zeus shouted as he raised his fist to hit his older brother again. We almost killed the man who stopped the faction war. Poseidon and Hades blinked several times, looking at Naruto, who stayed silent and dumbly looking from Zeus to Poseidon to Hades and back to Zeus, rinse and repeat. Their eyes widened as they remembered the announcement Zeus made after the faction war ended.
Oh shit, I am sorry, Poseidon shouted as he positioned himself onto his knees and bowed.
It's fine, nothing, Naruto started to say before Poseidon got up suddenly. I almost got you, a world-renowned hero killed, and you say it's fine, Poseidon shouted in tears. What the hell is going on? Naruto thought as the sea god continued to panic. Meanwhile, underworld. Lucifer stared outside his window. The once powerful man was now reduced to a panicked mess. He was constantly looking behind his back, afraid of the shadows that loomed there. He had killed many servants who had accidentally appeared behind him, trying to ask him something before he blasted them into atoms, always breathing hard like a man suffering from shell shock. The only being able to survive such a thing was his lovely wife, Lilith. However, today was not a normal day, as outside his mighty castle was an army. An army of devils revolting against his rule. So, he thought as he turned and donned his armor. It's time for civil war.
MT Olympus, Greece.
Wow, Naruto said in awe as he walked alongside Poseidon, Zeus, and Hades on the grounds of the realm of the gods. It's amazing here. Of course it is, Zeus stated proudly, chest puffed out slightly with a smug smirk. It is a heaven on earth, so to speak. I don't know, Naruto thought as he saw Dionysus completely plastered with several empty jars of wine. I was raised in the East, so my idea of an afterlife is much different. Hades laughed. That is true, every pantheon's afterlife is different, Hades said as he looked at Naruto. It makes it easier to handle the dead. Instead of shoving all people to the biblical heaven or hell, we separated them by their beliefs, and it has worked very well the last several millennia. Interesting, Naruto replied to Hades. It truly is, Poseidon stated as he wrapped his arm around his older brother. But this is coming from the dude who kidnapped his wife. Hades growled at Poseidon's jab. At least Hades doesn't cheat on his wife. The four men turned and saw Zeus's wife, Hera. Hera was a beautiful woman. She was very tall, dwarfing Naruto like her fellow gods on Olympus. She wore a royal garb, befitting her status as Queen of Olympus. She had cyan-colored eyes and light lavender hair that hung down to her ankles in a braid with a gold tiara holding her bangs up. Hera, we have been over this, Zeus said in a slight panic as he approached his wife.
Hera quirked an accusing eyebrow at her husband, clearly not happy.
So, who the hell is this brat? Hera asked as she looked at Naruto, looking him over before turning to Zeus.
Another bastard child of yours?
What? No, of course not, he's. Oh, come on Dad, don't lie to Mom like that. Naruto interrupted, doing his best to not smirk or laugh as he stepped forward between them. Nice to meet you. Hera was livid as she released some of her magic, shaking the Mount Olympus, as she pushed Naruto aside and closed in on her husband. Zeus. She growled as her hair rippled from the force of her releasing her magic.
Zeus didn't back down as he started to release his own magic, lightning cracking as their magic clashed.
This boy is not a child of mine, nor is he descended of us. Zeus stated as he yanked Naruto forward. He doesn't even have magic, as he comes from the east.
Hera glanced at Naruto, who was nervously chuckling.
He doesn't have magic, actually, I can't even tell what he is. Hera thought as she recalled her magic as she calmed down, which allowed Zeus to step back and recall his own.
Idiot.
Poseidon thought as he shook his head as Hades sighed. Why did he think it was a good idea to joke like that around Hera?
Hades thought in slight disappointment. I am Hera, Queen of Olympus.
Hera introduced as she recollected herself. I bid you welcome into our home. I am Naruto Uzumaki, Ambassador of Kyoto, Japan. I am honored to meet you. Naruto stated as he took Hera's hand and kissed it. Hera was blown away from the respect Naruto showed her, despite the display she had just shown him.
Ambassador from Japan?
Hera replied. Ah, you are the human who stopped the faction war some time ago. Yes, that was me. Naruto stated. I am sorry for my rude joke earlier. No, it is fine. Hera said as she glanced menacingly at Zeus.
I shouldn't have made assumptions.
Hera turned around. Follow me, I shall lead you to the meeting hall. Hera said as she turned to Hades. Brother, please get Hermes to gather the other Olympians. Yes, sister. Hades said with respect and walked off to get Hermes to gather the others, while Poseidon and Zeus followed Naruto and Hera.
How do you feel about our home, Uzumaki?
Hera asked as Naruto walked beside her, looking around in awe at the lush beauty of the Goldie Mountain.
It's amazing. Naruto replied, unable to say anything else. All the separate places for each of you, all in one place.
Hades isn't a part of Mount Olympus. Poseidon added. Which was an issue when our brother wants to come here. Thankfully, Hephaestus was able to create the Hyperion Gate to allow brother to go to and from Olympus.
Will he be a part of the meeting?
Naruto asked as his group arrived at the meeting hall, which had an elaborate gold table in the form of a U with multiple seats.
Instead of getting a verbal answer, Hades appeared with Hermes, Hestia, Dionysus, Hephaestus, Demeter, Athena, Apollo, Artemis, Ares, and Aphrodite.
All of them were taller than any normal human, easily 6 inches or a full foot. Hermes was a young-looking man with short curly hair. He wore a helmet that had tiny wings on them, similar to his sandals which allowed him to fly. In his hand he held his caduceus. Hestia wore white and pale blue robes with a lace head veil, keeping her black hair tidy. Dionysus, a well-built man, wore simple cloth around his waist with a thick grapevine keeping it up. In his hands was a cask of wine. Hephaestus was a large man, though unlike his fellow gods, he was visually grotesque, and he had a small leg, due to it being lame. He wore a simple blacksmith garb with some tools at his side, and a heavy smell of metal coating his hands.
Demeter, like Hera, was a gorgeous adult woman. wearing green robes with gold leaves detailing the hems. Her dark green hair was long and wavy, like grass. Athena wore armor and carried her Medusa mirror shield with her. She had silver white hair, due to being the daughter of Zeus, and she had an elegance and aura of wisdom around her due to being the goddess of wisdom and battle tactics. Ares, like Athena, wore altered armor to expose his arms, which were large and muscled, unlike most of the other men who were on the skinnier side, but still muscled. Apollo was a standard pretty boy, his lyre at his side with a leaf gold crown on his head, as he wore a simple sash connected to the waist cloth and sandals. Artemis wore a simple hunter garb with her trusty bow and quiver of arrows at her side. Her hair was in a small bob, keeping it out of her face. Beside her was her treasured hind deer. Aphrodite, as the goddess of love, was the most beautiful of the female Olympians. She had the most desirable figure, large breasts, wide hips, and slim waist. Her long brown hair let down. She wore the most provocative clothing of the Olympians. Her upper clothing left her back bare, nearly leaving her breasts uncovered due to see-through cloth. And her skirt had 2 layers, thick fabric covering her crotch and but clear fabric to reveal her long legs. "Father," Athena said as she and the Olympians sat down. "Why did you call us here?" "Is there another battle?" Ares asked with an aggressive grin. "Of course not, my son," Zeus said as he looked at his battle-obsessed child. "We called you here due to one thing." He turned his attention to Naruto, who stepped up. "We have an ambassador for Japan, but you know him as the man who stopped the faction war, Naruto Uzumaki," Zeus stated with a proud tone. There were gasps and whispers amongst the remaining Olympians, as Hera, Poseidon, Hades, and Zeus watched with Naruto taking a seat at the end of the table with Athena and Ares. "I am happy to be here, thank you for having me," Naruto said politely as he sat down. "Why are you here?" Apollo asked politely as he looked Naruto up and down, liking what he saw. "Did you come here looking for a wife?" Aphrodite asked seductively, making Hephaestus, her husband, sigh slightly at her antics. "Because I could make some time for you, dear." Naruto chuckled nervously. "Sorry, but I am married and I have a child," Naruto stated as he showed his wedding ring. "Hasn't stopped men before," Aphrodite said with a seductive wink. "Let's get to the point," Artemis stated loudly, not liking the disgraceful flirting her niece was doing. "Why are you here, Uzumaki?" "I am here to ask for an alliance with my home," Naruto said as he propped his arms on the table and held his hands. "As you know, Japan suffered a lot during the faction war, as did you and many others. I propose we make an alliance to help each other, open trade routes, and fight together should any of the factions start another war to prevent unnecessary death." "But war is going to have death," Ares stated as he stood up. "Shut up, Ares," Hades stated to his nephew. "You may be the god of war, but you only represent the brutality, violence, suffering, and all the negative parts of battle." Ares growled at his uncle, but bit his tongue. "I am not saying we can truly prevent anything like that, Ares," Naruto continued. "I just want to minimize the loss we could suffer. I know with war you have to accept the ugliness of it to truly fear and understand it. I meant no disrespect to you, god of war." Ares was dumbfounded and lost for words. He is the one who stopped the faction war, yet he is acting like a weakling? Ares mentally questioned. "I took no offense, just stated something obvious," Ares replied in a politer tone. Naruto smiled. On that note, can we agree that an alliance between Olympus and Japan is possible? Naruto asked all the Olympians.
Yes, Zeus is head god, but it is better to get the approval of all of them.
Naruto waited patiently as they whispered amongst themselves.
I say we hold a vote,
Zeus stated to them.
That way, we can debate as a group if there are any issues.
The Olympians nodded. All for the alliance, raise your hand, Zeus stated.
Surprisingly, all of them raised their hands.
Thank you for this alliance, Naruto said with a bow. It is anonymous, Zeus stated as he stood up. The alliance between the Olympians and Japan is official. The next several hours were spent finalizing the rules for the alliance.
Now, we have settled the trade agreement, the agreement to support one another if one is under attack. Amongst other things, is there anything else we could add? Zeus asked as he was tired.
Only he, Naruto, Demeter, Artemis, Hera, Poseidon, Hades, Aphrodite, and Athena remained in the meeting hall, since the rest decided to leave to return to their own thing.
No one said anything, since all the stipulations they wanted had been added or adjusted to be equal for Kyoto and Greece. No one has anything to add, so I think this is final, Zeus said as he signed the alliance paperwork.
Naruto followed up and signed it as well before shaking hands with Zeus.
Please allow me to present you with a gift,
Naruto stated as he clapped his hands together, opening his Rinne Sharingan as he channeled chakra into them.
I hope this works.
Creation of all things. With his perfect chakra control, some imagination, and a lot of concentration, Naruto separated his hands, a glowing chakra orb forming between them. After several seconds, the glowing orb's light increased significantly enough to make the Olympians close their eyes before it died down.
In Naruto's hands was a bow that had no string, but it was prepped as if it was stringed.
Oh shit!
It actually worked,
Naruto thought in surprise, keeping a cool face.
What are these? Hera asked as she saw the mirror and the bow. This is for anyone who wants it,
Naruto said as he took the bow.
As he grabbed it, a string made from his chakra appeared, making it look more complete.
You see, this stabilizes the power of the user, focuses it, and then you can fire it.
Like so,
Naruto stated as he pulled back the string, a chakra arrow appearing before he released the arrow into the sky.
So, I'll take it, Artemis said as she shot up, a big smile on her face as she took the bow. This will be an amazing addition to my arsenal.
Naruto smiled as he was happy Artemis liked the bow.
Well, then I guess I'll be going home then,
Naruto said as he took a copy of the alliance paper. Would you like help going home? Poseidon asked, thinking Naruto was going to travel back to Japan by boat.
I got a quicker way,
Naruto said as he activated a warp portal. Until we meet again, mighty Olympians.
He stepped through it before closing it.
He was a nice guy. Aphrodite pouted, crossing her arms. Next time, I'll get him. Demeter punched Aphrodite. Respect the married man, Demeter stated as every one of the other gods went home. Kyoto, Japan. Naruto smiled brightly as he picked up Yasaka, who was in a crib reaching out for him. Hey, little one, Naruto said happily as he kissed her forehead. Have you been behaving?
No, she hasn't.
Naruto turned and saw Tamamo, smiling as she pulled him into a kiss. How was the meeting? Tamamo asked as she pulled back, taking Yasaka from Naruto.
It went better than I had thought.
Naruto replied as he showed her the paper. Slowly reading it, Tamamo sighed. How long did you take to write this up? Tamamo asked as she sat down. A few hours, why? Naruto asked before he started to cower. Then what took you so long to come back? She asked as she towered over him with Yasaka cutely blinking and looking between her parents. Okay, I can explain that. Naruto said as he proceeded to tell them about his journey with Odysseus. After an hour, Tamamo hummed as she rocked Yasaka to sleep as Naruto sat on his knees on the floor. I see, no wonder you took so long. Tamamo said with a sigh of relief. I thought you would have fallen for the wiles of Aphrodite. Trust me, she tried. Naruto replied in a deadpan tone. I bet. Tamamo coughed into her hand. Naruto shot up and rubbed her back. I'm fine. She coughed as it slowly lessened. Tamamo, what is going on? Naruto asked as he took Yasaka from Tamamo to let her drink some water. You shouldn't still have a cold. Tamamo's ears drooped as she looked at the ground. I went to the doctors after you left, and they said it was just a cold. I was given medicine, so hopefully, it goes away soon. Tamamo told him, not wanting to hide it from her husband. Naruto put Yasaka back into her crib against her wishes, not wanting to be in her bed but with her parents. Tamamo, if you want, I'll put my ambassador duties on hold and stay here with you and Yasaka. Naruto said with worry as he took Tamamo's hands. No, it's just a cold, there is no reason for you to abandon your. Tamamo started before she started coughing again, her body aching a bit as Naruto helped her stand. You need to get these alliances made, sooner rather than later to be safe. Naruto heard those words, and made up his mind. He scooped his wife into his arms, leaving a clone with Yasaka, and went to his shared room with his wife. Naruto? Tamamo asked as she was placed in their futon, their blanket being pulled over her. I won't be leaving your side until you are better. Naruto stated as he stood up. And the other alliances can wait, we have one done, so we should build it up first. So, rest and I'll help take care of leadership. Tamamo smiled at Naruto. Okay, you stubborn jackass. She sighed as she felt very warm and sleepy under the covers. Naruto sighed. 1356, Kyoto. Tag, now you are the Oni. Yasaka shouted playfully as she tackled Akasha. No fair. Akasha shouted with a pout. Akasha, age 4, pushed Yasaka, age 4, off of her. Akasha had her long pink hair tied into a ponytail with a black ribbon with her bangs framing her face. She wore a short skirt and a shirt, wearing leather shoes on her feet. Yasaka, meanwhile, wore a red and white Miko kimono, like her mother, and had her light blonde hair tied in bun. Her tail swaying happily as she ran away from Akasha. Naruto, age 27, smiled as he, Tamamo, age 26, and Hilda watched their children play. You know, I said it last year, but Naruto, you don't seem to be aging anymore. Hilda pointed out as she looked at Naruto. It was true, Naruto still looked like he was 21, like Tamamo and Hilda. You think so? Naruto said as he looked over himself. I mean, from my original dimension, my mother's clan had such strong vitality, that they stayed young longer than normal, so maybe it is still the same in this dimension. Maybe. Tamamo said as she leaned into her husband, holding his arm as she enjoyed the fresh spring air. I am not complaining, Naru. Naruto smiled as he held her hand and put his head on Tamamo's, her ear bending gently. Naruto's smile faltered as he opened his eyes and looked at his wife. She is much thinner than she should be, and she hasn't been eating very much as of late, he thought as he kissed her head. Hey, not fair. Naruto, Tamamo, and Hilda looked over and saw Akasha and Yasaka wrestling on the ground. Okay, you two, that's enough, Naruto said as he got up and pulled the children apart. What happened? Yasaka isn't playing fair, Akasha shouted as she pointed her finger accusingly at Yasaka, who glared at her cousin. We said a few seconds before tagging, and she keeps tagging me right after I tag her. Liar, I am playing fair, Yasaka refuted. Naruto sighed. Okay, you two, Tamamo said as she stood up, walking towards them. There is. Tamamo's eyes widened as she collapsed, clutching her stomach as she started coughing, her throat becoming raspy as she violently coughed. Is this blood? She thought as she saw the crimson liquid soak her hands. Pain spiked and lowered sporadically in her stomach. Tamamo/Mama. Naruto and Yasaka shouted as they ran to Tamamo. Akasha and Yasaka were confused as they watched Naruto pick Tamamo up. Hilda, take care of Yasaka, Naruto ordered before Yasaka grabbed his leg. Papa, what's happening to Mama? Yasaka asked as she shook Naruto's clothes, only for Hilda to pick her up to let Naruto leave. Papa! Yasaka shouted as she didn't want to be separated from her parents, but Hilda's grasp on her and Akasha prevented her from trying to follow. Naru! Tamamo coughed, splashing blood across his chest. I'm scared. She clutched his kimono as Naruto picked up his pace. Don't worry, you will be fine, Naruto said in a panicked tone, trying to stay calm to give Tamamo comfort. I promise, the doctors will help you. Tamamo's tail shook between her legs as she teared up as the pain spiked again. Naruto arrived and kicked the door open. Doctor! Naruto shouted, making the medics jump. We need help. Nature's hatred. Compound. I want to see Mama. Yasaka shouted as she struggled to break out of Hilda's grasp as Akasha watched her own mother hold the tiny fox child down. Yasaka, we should. I want Mama. Yasaka screamed, her power flaring high enough to cause a shockwave breaking Hilda's grasp, nearly taking her arms off thanks to her endurance as a vampire, and sending her into the wall and to the floor. Such power, she truly is Naruto's daughter. Hilda thought as she pulled herself up from the ground to see the shocked look on Yasaka and Akasha's faces. Auntie, I am sorry. Yasaka choked as she started to cry when Hilda's arms started to swell and become a deep blue. It's okay, dear, Hilda said as her arms went numb with a smile. We just need to be more careful. Akasha took Yasaka's hand and pulled her into a hug, the small fox hugging her cousin as she started to cry in confusion. Hospital. Naruto sat outside the emergency ward as the doctors scrambled around Tamamo, scanning her body with every method they could think of as her fever increased, coating her thin body in a layer of sweat. He gripped his hands together, tapping his foot against the floor, feeling helpless as he bit his lip to keep himself from interfering, not wanting to make things worse. Naruto. He looked up and saw their physician, Dr. Reika, with a sad look on her face as she approached him. She held up her hand to keep him from speaking. I am sorry, but this is our fault, she stated with a bow, getting on her hands and knees, pressing her forehead to the floor. We misdiagnosed Tamamo. So, it wasn't a cold? Naruto asked in a restrained tone. It wasn't. Reika replied as she sat up on her knees. It is a bacterial infection from the placenta fluid that we missed. What? Naruto asked dumbly. Reika's shoulders slanted as they sighed, taking a brief moment to think. The fluid that helps the child in the womb stay healthy, she explained, getting a nod from Naruto. But, when we performed the C-section, we didn't get all of it when we sealed it shut, so for the last 4 years, what we assumed to be a cold, was a bacterial infection, and it has been killing your wife. Naruto's world seemed to shatter at those words as his hands fell to his lap. For now, we have her stable, but her body is extremely weak. Reika continued as she reread Tamamo's file. The stress from all these years of fighting it is basically catching up to her. Is there anything you can do to save her? Naruto asked as he stood up, body shaking as he put on a calm face, though his eyes showed he was breaking. We are doing what we can, but it could already be too late. Reika stated, though her voice hitched as she felt her throat dry. She could have minutes or days. Better make them count. Reika turned to re-enter the operation room, stopping to look at Naruto, as he collapsed into the seat as he grasped his face with his hands. I am sorry, but it is worse to lie about these things, she said before she left Naruto alone. Naruto? Gyuki asked in worry as Naruto shook harder. Naruto took a deep inhale and screamed as loud as he could into his hands, shocking the tailed beasts, and many hospital workers and patients. Please no, he thought as he gripped his head. Please, don't take her. I don't want to lose her too. Naruto stayed the entire day and night, refusing to leave the hospital. The sun rose and drifted across the sky until it was late evening, filling the hall in its orange glow. Do you know why good people die, young man? Naruto glanced to his side and saw a grotesque caricature of a Victorian gentleman whose attire consisted of a tan overcoat with a light purple inner collar, a black and green striped shirt, black trousers, and black shoes that curl up at the toe. In addition, he also wears a pair of pince-nez glasses and a black top hat. He was a large, almost cartoonishly rotund figure, easily towering over everyone else. His face was goblin-like, with long pointed ears, and perhaps his most notable characteristic is his large rectangular-shaped mouth that appears stuck in a perpetual grin. He had gray skin and, on the rare occasion they can be seen behind his glasses, golden eyes, and in his hands was an umbrella with a pumpkin on the handle. It's the same reason why people pick flowers from a garden, he said as he turned to Naruto. Because they are the most beautiful, thus people want them dead. Naruto ignored him, turning his attention back to the door, only to be surprised when he saw the person standing before him. Is the person in there important to you, young man? He asked, chuckling. Well, you wouldn't be here if they weren't. What is this guy? Naruto thought on edge as he put his guard up. How about it? He asked, getting into Naruto's face. I can save the person in there, just say the word and I can. Naruto grabbed the man's face and pushed him away, making him trip over his and fall to the ground. As if I would fall for that stupid shit, Naruto stated aggressively. There is no way you could. Ha, 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 ha. The creature laughed as it floated into the air and landed on its feet. I thought you would think that way, but I should have known you would not fall for it. Who are you? Naruto demanded as he entered Sage mode, not able to gauge this person's strength. He chuckled as he closed his umbrella, allowing the rain to fall on him. You can't tell, can you, Naruto Uzumaki? He asked as he narrowed his eyes.
Well, I'm not too surprised, my better half does spoil you, even now. Naruto didn't know what he was talking about, but suddenly sensed a dark aura around this person, and it felt familiar. That's Naruto thought. Senjutsu. The person's grin got bigger. Exactly, I am the dark half of nature, representation of natural disasters and death. He introduced. And you have been an object of interest for some time, ever since you were born into this world. Naruto grabbed him, staring him in the eyes. You are the reason for everything. Naruto shouted. Humph, no need for violence, young man. He stated as he removed Naruto's hands from his body. Even if you were to kill me, I would not die. This body is just the form I decided to take to talk to you this day. Naruto glared at him. What did you want to do? Insult me? Naruto asked angrily. Or make fun of my loved ones? I'm not as barbaric to insult your wife. Nature said, waving off the accusation. I am here because I don't understand why you aren't broken. Broken? Yes, broken. Nature replied. You see, I know you are not from this world, so I decided to twist your fate to make sure you suffer, wanting to see your breaking point, yet you never broke. I checked the records from your previous life, and I noticed you didn't break there either, even in the face of the man who killed your dear Jiraiya, and here, you stand before the force that killed your grandfather, your friend, and soon, your wife.